Okay, what are we bringing to the table today?
Well, I'll probably watch. For me, it'll probably be the mirror gazing because I got the two greys from that in the ET contact, I suppose. So that's what I'd be just talking about for me. That's my experience this week with it so far.
Especially because it's the three of us. So let's just mention for the potential viewers that last week the three of us started mirror gazing for the precise purpose of contact with our own inner selves, specifically our galactic counterparts, so our ET aspects. And so why don't you jump in there, James? What would you like to bring to the fore?
Well, that was my first experience in that way. That was the first time in that way. That was good, and I was able to identify, I think, accurately. But I'll talk to you guys. You'll know better what I saw. But I did post a video in my post, and if you went to 5 minutes in that video clip and you paused it there, the one on the left, I think, is a Zeta grey. I described it as long-faced, very chiselled, like a sculptured face. It came in quite very clearly. I think it was a Zeta, they call that, but I don't know. But that was a very long face, very chiselled face that popped up and came in. And the others were, I got big black eyes that were there. And another grey that was smaller, rounder faced. Mostly the eyes though, but a smaller, very small face. What else did I get? An old man's face came in. I got that twice. Actually, it reminded me of Ted Vos, to be honest. Looking at it, it looked like Ted. And what else was my face looked like a bird. I got a hawk look, very sharp look at me. That's my very first sessions, like looking at me. So I quite a few in that's that parts. And then I changed a little bit. I started just doing that gaze away from the mirror as well, just staring out. And I got the purple haze that I would normally get behind when my eyes are closed. I get the purple haze, but I was getting that into my visions in general. I was looking at that. And I think it was last night I went out. I'm now outside at night time and I stared up at the universe and did the same thing, just gazed at it. I've done this before, not gazing, but talking to the universe, and it will respond with a flash. And I did the same last night, staring at it and goes, you give me a sign, you're there. And a white light flashed just above my head, and it flashed and spun into my house just next to me as it flew in. So a few contacts by just doing the gaze and the mirror. Yeah.
Okay, so you're describing the alterations in the visual field. What happened within your own feeling presence? What kind of changes could you feel happening within yourself as this was occurring?
I couldn't say I detected any change other than it was nice though, it was good. But I couldn't describe any kind of change. I was just seeing it all just coming in and out of my vision, but I couldn't say I can identify any kind of change. Other than it was pretty good. Bit surprised.
What about you, Ra?
It seemed like every sitting, and I experimented with different things, like sitting about maybe 2 feet away from a large mirror, and then holding a small mirror maybe 1 foot away, and they both got very different results. But results, it was like every single day I saw somebody different, a different aspect. The first change that I saw was a very, very distinct bird face, but it was like a bald bird. It was like my skin color almost, but my whole face like morphed into the beak, and everything was, I could see it very clearly. And there was another time when I saw, I would have to really in order to keep my eyes from blinking, I would sometimes like soften my gaze a little bit and look in a slightly different, and then bring it back. And I was able to do that to keep myself from blinking. And different times when I would do that, I saw what the first time it looked like a small gray person's head, about this big maybe, right underneath my chin, right here. And my face was slightly like the eyes were more to the side. I had another, I experimented with it in the bathroom one time, and I saw a very distinct, like yellow scale face person, very different, kind of a slanted head like this. And another time I saw someone that again seemed almost like a really wide eye space, almost like my face, but the eyes were way over here. And then there was another time, just today, in fact, I was doing a little bit of this when I got home, and there was a like a small gray head over the top of my head. This is what it was like, superimposed over the top of my face like this again. And different, I was kind of playing around with the room too, and seeing if there was, looking around with this different type of vision going. And I could see, I felt like there was a presence behind me, and so I started to play around with that. And I almost went into the same type of, when I'm able to remote view with my eyes open, just by staring at like the night sky or a blank wall or something. And I felt very strongly that there was a presence behind me, and that I could see this was actually changing shape behind me.
Okay. And what about the experience itself? Not just the visual field, but what's happening in you? What's happening in the feeling presence of the space as this is occurring? What alteration is there, if any?
For me, I feel the presence of something when it's happening. I feel very special in the moment, but it's also causing me to open my own understanding as far as what I thought I knew, and how limited that there's so much more. As far as what I thought I had this association, it all confirmed everything, but in different ways, and expanded things as well.
How is it impacting your awareness that all of this can be brought here into this visual field, into the 3D earth life field, into your home territory? There's not any kind of a different feeling sensation to your being than when you're just living your regular everyday sort of mundane existence?
The big difference, I would say, would be that I know that, and I've been able to see auras and that sort of thing, but I have to kind of, this is an easier way of getting into that, almost, where I can see them without even having to try or focus on something, or going about it in a mental fashion. I can simply, it's really amazing to simply adjust your vision. It's like almost like a superpower in a sense. It's
Indeed. There's such a huge alteration in my own experience. This is why I'm asking you both what's happening in your experience. As the energies begin to shift, as the brainwave patterns begin to shift, as the frequencies and fields begin to shift, I shift. I'm no longer experiencing myself as I normally experience myself as Casey. So as the field shifts, I'm in that field. I'm shifting as well. The feeling sensation is utterly different. There's more of a silence, there's more of a hush, there's more of a open space, there's more of a vibration, there's more energies. So as my faces begin to come through my face, I am experiencing that being through my being. Wholly, I'm experiencing myself as that being, but simultaneously as this expression of myself as well. So this feels like I'll no longer be able to feel the floor under. I sit on the floor when I'm doing the practice. I always sit in the same space. So like when I'm doing this as a formal practice, I have a precise space that I'm going to go to do this practice. And I don't sit 4 inches off to the right or 4 inches off to the left of it. It's always in the exact same space. I do this for scientific type reasons, so that the entire visual field is exactly the same each and every time I shift, each and every time I practice. And what's happening in mine is, this is interesting. This has not ever happened before when I have done the mirror gazing. But the entire field is going red. And so this red tint sort of comes into the room, and my own feature turns very red, very indigenous Indian-like, if not more so, because there's a particular Martian male being who seems to be coming through, who is very red. Not red-skinned like our indigenous Indians, but red-skinned like an apple, you know, red, real red. Like a marker color red. Yeah, very red. So what I'm getting mostly are primeval indigenous peoples of various spheres, our own as well as others. So very earth human looking, but not with any sort of features I recognize as being from our primeval past. Not that we're even aware of all of those who existed here. And I myself probably aware of even less than what's put out there for us to see. But yeah, it doesn't feel local. It definitely feels primeval. There's primeval, indigenous, shamanic type beings, just one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. Yeah. So, and then the red-skinned Martian male who came through a few times. And let's see. Yes, I'm asking now, specifically, I'm using the mirror gazing, not just for contact, but contact specifically with those who will be channeling with me. So I'm specifically calling those ones more forward into the field for me to see, for me to engage and interact with. And it's my hope that, you know, a deeper process of the channeling activity will begin from this. So I'm beginning more specifically along this line as of last night. So is there a reason that you each will continue engaging in the mirror gazing practice? Not just for contact, but something further than contact? What is it you want to get from or glean from the beings who you are now meeting?
Well, I wanted to talk to you about that experience you were having, because you mentioned being in contact with the shamans and indigenous, because I work with a lot of that. I've got a massive amount of information about that. And even the symbol, they said that one gave you a symbol of a tree with roots, but there's no leaves. But see that drum there? See the symbol? Now that's a tree. That's the actual drum. The tree, no roots. That's my actual drum I'll be using. I meant to ask you. That's a coincidence. And also, remember, I showed you the body postures. That's all indigenous ancient people practices from there, done by postures with the drumming that connects you to the ancient shamanic practitioners all the way back at least 40,000 years in here. And this is where I was going with it. And your experience in this, it just kind of matches up. It matches up with what I'm actually doing.
All three of us have very deep primeval indigenous shamanic type roots. And so yeah, it's interesting that when the three of us meet here. So what James was mentioning for our viewing audience is a symbol I had asked for specifically for the purpose of opening my channel. Ra is teaching me how to open my channel, my vocal channel, and suggested that I ask for or look for a symbol as a sort of meeting place. And when I asked for it, I got the tree. And this is a very, there's two forms of the tree. There's the tree and its mental format in the mental field, And that is like a tree that is mirrored, where the roots are very much resembling the branches. And it's white, and there's a lavendery, light blue spectral hue that's coming off of this structure. And so now when I go into channel, I go in and I ask and begin looking for the tree, that symbol. Very helpful. And then it has a ground level format. So as I go out of body and find either an etheric or astral location, this tree exists there. It's a very Celtic looking tree. It's a very ancient looking tree. It's enormous and has enormous roots. The root structure follows the top of the ground, you know, and doesn't just go under, so it's fully seeable from the top. And it has this nice little nestling spot that I can just sit down and I can be there. And I have not gleaned the full significance of the discrete aspects or features of this symbol, but it's beginning to permeate me more. And when we went into our practicing last night, it was very helpful for me to immediately go into the awareness center. Yeah. Very, very cool stuff. Very cool for me. I've been wanting to channel for a very long time. And what does this have to do with contact? You may be asking out there. Not you two, but our viewing audience. Yeah, so contact with our inner being is what we're doing when we're channeling. We're connecting and contacting the component parts of ourselves that are closest to us, and these are usually ET beings. Not always, but generally at first it's the one closest to us, which are our galactic counterparts. Extraterrestrial consciousness. And on that note, I had a contact last night in the dream fields. So I had to wake multiple times last night to use the restroom. I had been retaining fluids the days previous, which often happens when I have to work consecutive long shifts. So I worked 112 and 2 24-hour shifts in a row, and yeah, had retained some water. So my body was releasing it last night, and I had to wake multiple times in the night. Each time I woke, it was when, you know, the cycle had completed and was moving through beta. And I spent a little time there trying to recall where I am in the dream fields. And it's very elusive, but there's a being there. At the left-hand side of my vision field, there is a male being approximately 6 foot tall, wearing a dusty black hooded cloak. And he's standing in right profile, so I can see nothing of his body, just the cloak and the fact that he's there. And the first time it happened, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Went to the bathroom, came back to bed. Next time I had to get up, cycling through beta, attempt to bring the recall of where I am in the dream fields. Again, extremely elusive, highly opaque and vague, and yet there's this being again. At the left-hand side of my vision field, still standing in right profile, wearing the same dusty black cloak, hooded cloak, so I still can't see him. And then the last time, I'm cycling through beta just before getting up, which is going to be about an hour and a half after I see him again. He faces me full on. So this time, you know, again, trying to go for the recall, and nothing's there but him. I should say there is an entire field there. It's just not formed. The only thing there fully formed is him. So I suspect he's doing this to get my attention, to let me know that he's there. And so this time, face on, you know, and you can see the hood and cloak, and he has a wide face. This has to be a reptilian, a being of some sort based on the conceptual features that I'm getting. I'm seeing him very humanoid, but definitely not Earth human. I don't know what species of reptoid this is, because I'm not very familiar with the different species of reptoid. And I say that meaning reptoids of our planet, for instance, more iguana-like, or, you know, more, you know, some other form of reptoid. Um, I can't liken it to, I may go through some pictures and see if I can liken it to something, but the face is quite wide, wider than what ours would be. The eyes are just slightly wider than normal. The skin is a deep, deep olive green that is leaning much more toward the green side of olive than the yellow side. Yeah, the mouth was really standing out to me. It looks like, you know, a reptoid's mouth, or the mouth of even a dog, you know, and cats have this kind of shaped mouth. It looks like the first concept that's coming to me when I'm seeing the mouth is a bow, you know, like in a bow and arrow. The arc of the bow is very similar to this. I feel that this being carries this, is likely an archer, you know, works with the bow and arrow. Yeah, and I just had one question, and that question was, are you here to help? You know, because I'm working on the dream recall and conscious out of body experience. I want to know that he's there to help and not interfere, and just a very clear and present yes. So that's as far as we engaged, and I'm asking him to stay put and to continue this. This is happening, you know, right off of the mirror gazing in our channeling session, and my asking for those who are going to be channeling with me to step more forward into my awareness. So it's happening in conjunction with all of this. And I've never seen him before. This is interesting, you know, for somebody who has been uber aware of the dream fields for, you know, the entire lifetime. This is a being I have not intersected with before. Fascinating. On that note, we had discussed the possibility of bringing forward the concept of type 1 and type 2 beings the last time we met. And so we might dive into that. Who'd like to begin? Type 1, type 2 are positive and negative entities. The definition of positive and negative is not good or bad. It is more along the lines of a service to self or service to others, meaning a being who absolutely will not infringe upon the free will of others. This is a type 1 being. And beings who to any degree, to any shape or form, would impose upon the free will another, defined as type 2. So this could be a good guy that just doesn't feel you're smart enough to make an appropriate move and comes in and assists. This also is type 2. So, you know, like a parent, an example of this in our own reality would be like a parent and child. A parent seeing that child is not able to make its own decisions and making those decisions for it. Type 2, that's a type 2 activity, a type 2 mentality that I do see changing on this planet. In fact, right in this very household, my own brother and sister-in-law engage their children as type 1, allowing the children to decide for themselves to a far greater degree than what I've seen in other households. So yeah, that is a change we're beginning to see here. Let's see, James, dive into this concept.
That's my approach, and that's how I approach my children as well, to be honest. I try and let them express and choose for themselves as much as possible, so like the type 1s, but how much activity are the type 2s doing here at present? Is there an interference? A lot of folk talk about it. So just to see, is that taking place?
This is a duality field. So yes, type 1 and type 2 beings here, planetary and galactic. Absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Let's talk about the percentages, the ratios of souls who contract to type 2 experiences in relation to the number of souls who generally contract to type 1. There is a ratio. The greatest majority of souls contract to type 1 experiences, type 1 soul expressions. So I personally feel the ratio is something close to 85% type 1, 15% type 2. Not that this is accurate, it's just sort of how I feel about it in this moment. What do you think? Local and non-local, planetary and galactic, both. What sort of ratio do you feel?
No, oh, sorry. Me? I get a lot more negative. I'd probably say 70-30. Type 1, 70, maybe less. No, I see a lot of negative. I see that interference. Other groups are involved in a lot of bad things taking place that they talk about, but I've no hard evidence on it. Just a lot what I feel about it. There seems to be a lot of negative taking place, but I think the positive outweighs it, but maybe not as high as up as 80-odd%, but I'd probably drop it down another 10, 70-30, I'd say.
Are you able to distinguish the reality field itself from your personal experience in the reality field? For instance, some of us will experience a much greater degree of type 2 activity in our life experiences based on the choices we ourselves are making. And then there's also the structure itself, the reality system itself, and its degree of exposure, type 1 to type 2. Are you able to distinguish?
Well, I did a few works. I was looking at just maybe it's just an element of the person themselves. Is it just the shadow work we're dealing with, or is there an interference? I can't quite distinguish. So a lot more work, a lot more experience with that to determine the difference between is that self-inflicted or caused out with. But with my experiences, and especially with institutions, and even my own brother, there was work done on him last week about that, about something negative attached, and come across a big spider attached onto him. And that was worked on and pulled off him. So he's been attacked for quite some time. Dealt with 2 experiences with people who, when I'm close to them, the being actually left them when I was next to them. My aura was enough to pull that being out of those 2 people. But I've seen people attacked by negative entities, but I know you can't tell the difference between that as a shadow element or a being. I couldn't tell the difference. I had to walk the person, see if it left them or not. But no, I couldn't tell.
I have a question about the is it possible for
I'm sorry, I was asking a question with my microphone off. Go ahead, Rob.
I'm curious based on my own perspective, which honestly I have to say I would say is a blend of type 2 and type 1, but it's not a negative type 2, but there's nothing controlling, but there is a guardianship that will take action, as I've experienced with other people. That I could tell that story, but that's a long story. But is there a gray area between 1 and 2?
Well, as I'm just now defining it, type 1 would be a being who will not infringe upon your free will. A type 2 being is someone who absolutely will infringe upon your free will. And there's various different reasons and energies behind them doing so. Anywhere from the spectrum of their own perceived benevolence all the way through to highly malevolent. And so there's a benevolent and malevolent spectrum to type 2. And I gave the example of a parent and child relationship as one example of a benevolent spectrum where the parent feels a need to infringe upon the free will of its child's own free choice because it perceives that child as not as intelligent or able to make its own decision. And so the parent makes the decision for the child. This would be an example of a benevolent spectrum type 2 activity.
In the instance that the person would be receiving guidance, but not necessarily a forcible decision making, that would be within the spectrum of 1.
Guidance is not infringing upon somebody's free will so long as the guidance was asked for.
And then I have one more
Guidance
question.
being forced, given without having been called for, then yes, we're moving into benevolent spectrum type 2 activity. So any infringement upon your free will is type 2. One who will not infringe upon your free will, type 1. This has nothing to do with good or bad. This has everything to do with the perception of that consciousness.
In the case of a spirit that comes forward before you're prepared to see the spirit and this sort of thing, and one that acts in a protective manner of the person that is guarding and coming forward to, would this be considered a violation of free will?
1, if you were not ready, the spirit would not present, would not be able to present. The only way that spirit would be able to present is if there was an opening there for it to. And so could there be another who saw potential harm and jumped in? Yeah. But is that a type 2 activity? Yes. Benevolent spectrum type 2, but type 2 all the same. Because it's jumping in without giving you the opportunity or the space to make your own decision. Regardless of whether you're prepared to make an informed decision or not is not the point. Type 1 will not infringe upon your free will in any way, shape, or form. You are sovereign. You are your own. And no harm can ever come to you in truth. Type 2 will infringe upon your free will. Anywhere from reasons of benevolency all the way through to extreme malevolency. So with that idea in mind, what kind of ratio do you feel exists in the reality system? Not your own personal experience, in the reality system. If you expand your awareness out and just sort of gauge a ratio of type 1 to type 2, what kind of ratio do you get?
I'm getting a very small ratio of type 2 that's concentrated to certain areas and a much larger expansion of type 1 that exists out, not confined to certain areas. Like almost like 80 and 20.
Yeah, something like that. Okay. Yeah, no, I was just curious. And that just tells me what kind of an experience you've entered for yourself. Yeah, James, tell us more about, because you're doing a lot of the shadow work with people. And so coming face to face with the type 2.
Yeah, those are quite bad. The description for that, they just describe it as demons, and it's hardcore. It really is getting a hold of people mentally and physically, physically ripping them to pieces. Their minds are ripped to pieces, truly are. The one particularly bad that I dealt with. I'm not even sure he even survived. I've not heard of him for over a year now. But yeah, they can be brutal. Yeah, horrible things. One of my brother that we dealt with Susan, and that was, she gets a horrible spider. It comes across like a spider being, and it's ripped right into your aura and just sucking you out and just pushing you right down into darkness and depression, horribleness. But
Now, before we go further into that, let's dive into it. Why does that type of being exist? Why does that type of experience exist as a possibility in reality?
my understanding of it is just evolution. It's just a stage of evolution the being's at. That's the energy it is. It will evolve out a ladder in its own time, but that's just the way it is. It's the energy it likes, it suits it, and it comes here for it. So I don't hold it against it. It's just I'm just dealing with it. But I understand in evolutional terms. That's what I learned at the bigger scheme of it.
Yeah, growth,
Yeah,
right?
you know.
Growth. It exists for the potential of growth. Does growth exist without contrast? It doesn't. If everything is always the same, if everything is one thing, is there any growth? No. You need the spectrum for growth. You need the contrast. And so, what would be the purpose of someone coming together with that type of entity and that type of experience? How could that type of entity get in?
It's the own person's mind. It's their own fears. It could be taking drugs in that alters your awareness and darkens you down. They're in. They're straight in.
Weakness. Weakness. So, could we ever see what our weaknesses are? Could we ever see where our weak areas are? Were things like this to not ever happen? Could we ever strengthen those areas? Are we strengthening those areas by this type of event occurring? Absolutely. Absolutely.
I feel it'll get better once people have more education on what the reality is. Because a lot of people simply have no understanding of their consciousness, the interactions taking place, and they're just wide open, no clue. So I think once the information comes out, they're educated. it'll be a lot smoother. People have good guidance to go to. The shamans coming back into more mainstream, especially in the West. If that's brought back in to deal with these areas,
Mm-hmm.
I reckon we should nullify it a fair bit. I reckon it's just knowledge, information.
So what's your mission plan, when you're coming in to assist people with this? Is your mission to show them where their weaknesses are, how to strengthen those areas, or are you simply removing or assisting to remove the entity?
All of it. The first part would probably be removing the entity. Second part will be education, how to shield, protect, and what the weaknesses are, your fears, your angers, your thought patterns, what opens the doorways, and just so the person's educated and blocked. So it'll be a combination of both aspects. No point doing one or the other. It's got to be both. The person must understand. So.
Sorry, I'm trying to make, there we go. The room goes dark if I move 2 milli whatevers to one way or another. Um, just a moment. Because I'm wanting to go somewhere with this. If we're going to help anybody, ourselves included, then we need to go into this. What is the shield? What people talk about shielding and putting up boundaries and barriers. So I'm not on board with this in any way, shape, or form. Just to let you know. There's what is the protection, if you want to call it that, that you put up.
It's
What is
pure
it?
it's your pure intent, really, but you're putting like a shield, so nothing negative. Your intent is nothing negative.
What does that shield? What is that shield made out of?
Well, it'll be your visuals, but you can do a visual shield. You can construct white bubble around you. You can construct of a diamond where it reflects negative, but it's all in your intent.
Is
You
that
can
shield
your
fear?
signals.
Most people put shields up due to fear.
Yeah,
Is that shield composed of fear? And what good is a shield composed of fear? How weak or strong is it?
strong as your intent is.
A
You
shield
know,
composed of fear is pretty weak. Not going to hold much out because fear is weak. So, what does that shield need to be made of?
love.
Your love,
Yeah,
absolute pure love. So, if you're talking about that type of a shield, if you're talking about diving into the center of yourself so deeply and radiating that depth to a degree that no negative or type 2 entity could enter, then yes, I'm on board.
it's just that I don't see a lot of folk understanding that. My brother's an example about talking about the love parts, and he will not express that. He's that doesn't work. If only they could do that. If only they could change themselves to be. But that's a mission in itself to get people
They
like that.
can, and it has to start. What do
Mm-hmm.
we get good at? We get good at what we do. We get good at what we practice. The more we practice, the better we get. The more we repeat an action, the more skilled we get at it. So it's what has to start. And the fact or the idea arising in your mind that someone else is not good enough or ready enough or strong enough to begin such a thing is a type 2 thought.
Yeah, I met that. I'm quite like that. I will jump in on someone
Type
to do
2
something.
activity will ensue.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that type 2 activity, if engaged in a particular manner, engaged in with the energies of frustration and fear and anger and um, all of this, that's going to escalate. That's going to bring you down into a malevolency, into the malevolent spectrum, where you are now attacking other type 2 beings for being who they are. What is an additional strategy?
Now, we have talked this before about standing. This is my stick point. I'm still stuck on it, and I'm trying to configure how I approach that. I'm buggered.
I mean, if you're really brave, I mean, if you are really the man, or woman, can you stand in that one's shoes?
What, in the type 2 shoes?
No, that being's shoes. Can you get yourself into the consciousness field of that being to see who it is, what it is, why it's doing what it's doing, see, you can see everything when you get there. You can see its past and future, as we would put it. You can see it's an entire history that led it to be exactly there where it is. What greater weapon, as it were, what greater tool could there be than this?
I just want the attacks to stop. That's all I
Or
want.
being able to invoke a change. But for the attacks to stop, you have to be able to invoke a change in that one. And what better way to invoke a change than to get right up inside of what that is, so that you can see how to invoke change.
Well, that's a mission for me. I need to go in there and dive in there and see what I can come up with with that. Yeah.
It's not that you are that being when you get in there. You're still you, but inside the consciousness field of that one. Now, if you are leaning toward the type 1, is just you being there going to invoke a change? Yeah. Uh-huh.
Will it? Would it?
Of course. Of course. You're in there. You have combined you, yourself, your consciousness, your energy with that consciousness.
I mean, I did that with my own experience when I first came to your channel, February. That's what I was dealing with, and I was dealing with my own, my own demon, I thought. And I struck a bargain. I'm doing what you said. I just let it be with me. I just let it just affect me. As long as the arrangement was, as long as it never came out and affected anybody else, they can have me. I'll just deal with that. But to be honest, I've never had that since. It's buggered off at that point.
It's an interesting dynamic, the difference between focus and fight. You can fight if you want, but then your life is going to be a battle. If you focus, if you choose focus over fight, then everything becomes clear. Everything becomes absolutely, perfectly crystal clear. And your action in that is absolutely appropriate. It's not even you doing it. It's a being moved from that absoluteness. Does it have an effect? There is nothing that has a greater effect. When you're confronting the whole of the field as yourself, when you're confronting all that appears in the whole of the field as yourself, you understand why fighting is not appropriate. You're fighting yourself. You're hurting yourself.
I just get that. I'm here for that purpose. A lot of my practices shape up for it. My connections are shaping up for it outside of these groups with other ones. And they're shaping up for it to put a stop to it. Well, I don't know what the outcome, what the strategy will be at that. I have no idea. I'm hoping that.
It's a challenging thing to get at first, and it's an even more challenging thing to say. But if you choose focus, and when you choose focus, there's a point in which everything just stands still. And you, as an observation point, can observe, and at the same time, just all the data from the field permeates your observation point. And at that point, you're moving from the energy of the entirety of the field. You're not moving from your own personal thought construct. And it does not mean that what occurs in this is not what we would call an altercation of sorts, but you're not moving from that. You don't have anger, you don't have frustration, you don't have fear, you don't have a desire to, quote, protect. What you have is the balance. You're right there, just hanging on the balance point of everything. And everything, you see that everything is always keeping itself perfectly in check. There's a larger consciousness that all of this is, and it's doing that. It's not our job as thought constructs. It's doing that. And the focus gets you into that and how it is always keeping things perfectly in check, you know, through you, through me, through Ra, through the rock, through the sky, through the trees, through the weather, through the eras. You know, it's doing that. And you get in on that, and a lot of it's happening through you. And again, that might look like a sword fight over here, and it might look like, you know, something else over there. But it's not you doing it anymore. You've expanded out into the entirety of the field, into the consciousness system itself, into the all of what is appearing here, which of course is a singularity in itself. And so you begin to be able to ride those waves. Yeah, and you don't interject your own thoughts or thinking into that so much to go into activity, quote, on your own without it anymore, which means, you know, the ego does not jump forward to take things over so much anymore. But when we're in fight mode, definitely the ego structure is composing and comprising its own experience. And yes, we can do that. There's a lot of that going on. That is the type 1 and type 2. Takes a lot of trust, takes a lot of love. And just beginning to dive into that trust. You know, and practicing in little ways that seem big to us. You know, like for instance, if you have to go to work one morning, not jumping out of the bed when the alarm clock goes off. What would happen if I didn't get up right now? Feel the rush. Be aware of the stream of thoughts that start coming into play that are actually what gets you up out of bed most days, rather than, you know, the universe itself sort of moving you into a flow of action. Very big difference in the experience. What would happen if I didn't go to work today? What would happen? I mean, would the world end? But we'll construct ways to, you know, get to that conclusion. Yeah, I'll get fired. I won't have any money to pay my bills. I'll get on the street. We can start constructing stories, you know, before we've even gotten up. Isn't it this very activity that we're attempting to move into cessation? Is it really that guy over there that seems to be doing something I don't like? or is it us?
So is this really like just a training school, as the reality gets described? You're here to learn the different, making your choices into the love and fear. Are these realities that we experience in these ones, at least just training, just like it's been described, just a training school, just a learning lab experience, really, as we evolve up the levels? Is that basically what just this place is, really? Just a school, you know? That's kind of one of the things I got put into my mind with who I was working with. Just a lesson.
Well, we create with energy. So the experiences that you're creating for yourself, developing certain skills, for example, you're bringing certain energies in, and those energies form into constructs that look like shamanic work, that look like card reading, that look like, different ways to, quote, protect other people, all kinds of things. So what energies are you bringing in to create your purpose?
Uplift, try and give people answers, give them energies,
No,
try and get them up the levels, try and get rid of so much fear.
you're focusing into yourself right now, James. You're focusing, you're going inside yourself, and you're going inside yourself to see what energies you are choosing, you are using to create your purpose for being here on the planet. What are the energies? I can tell you one, and I'm not even you.
I don't know.
Well, you're bringing a good degree of anger and angst in for the purpose of protecting other people. Clear and apparent, yes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Clear and apparent. It does not make you feel good. It brings out your anger.
Rage, pure
rage, yes.
Yeah.
Those are the energies you're bringing in to create that purpose of protecting other people from what they can't protect themselves from. Now look at that thought. Look at that thought. What kind of people are you populating your planet with? People who can't protect themselves. That's why they need you. Now look at that thought.
Well, rather it wasn't that way, but that's the reality here. I don't understand how to change it without standing up.
The universe itself is being each and every person here. So how is any person here any less capable than any other? Fundamentally.
I mean, they've all got the power. They've all got it.
Yes.
No question.
Now focus there. Now focus there. Yes, they have the power because the universe is being every being here. So no one person here on this planet has any advantage over any other. And this is true for any being on any planet and any galaxy and any universe. So isn't the main part of the equation getting the people to open up into the awareness of who they are?
That's not easy. Some folk aren't even thinking about it. You know, it's like I don't even begin to say anything to them about it.
So you're taking the easy way out rather than show them who they are. You're just going to fight their battles for them.
Listen, I've got a good teacher there, my brother, and he's just like it, trying to get him to understand it. Honestly, I'm put to the test every day trying to learn how to do that.
Push your buttons here, James. I'm trying to push your buttons here.
Uh,
You don't strike me as an easy way out sort of guy.
no, I'll get it there. It's just the initially when I come across somebody's getting attacked. What would I do then? Because I'm just going to fly straight in there and just get it off and deal with it there and then. But I'm going to deal with the person, try and educate them on it. But I have to go in some. I can't. I don't know. I don't know any other way. I'm just jump in there. I don't know any other tactic to save that. The guy I spoke about firstly, he was really bad. I mean, he couldn't listen to you. He won't take any information. He was completely gone. His mind was gone. You had to attack. You had to rip that thing out. That had to be done. Well, that guy was finished. He probably is finished.
The way to approach it is by knowing, when you are seeing that, knowing that the one that seems to be at the disadvantage is sovereign, has power. You just know that. And they're there and have access to that. But the second you let go of knowing that and into the thought that that person is weak, is not able to protect himself, you're not helping him.
He wasn't. He was done. He was in a mental institution. He was finished. he was finished. Some people are really, they're just gone, Casey. I don't know how they are doing it. Unless, I'm not up attached my full self yet, so I don't know what kind of tactics I can do that way, where I could just give them energy to uplift, kind of boost them up for themselves, something.
You never know. You never know what's going to do it. You never know what's going to do it in the end. But I'll tell you what won't do it is nobody coming into the life experience of that person who is knowing for them, not protecting them, but knowing for them that they are sovereign, that they are the universe.
That's like the last thought to have, isn't it? That's so big.
Know that in their presence, and they will begin to know it. Mm-hmm. It's not that they're going to snap out of it the second they see you.
No.
But you have done what you came into that one's presence to do, fundamentally. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that we're not doing practical things for them too.
Yeah.
I work with adults who can't make it to the bathroom. Am I going to not help them out? Of course I am. But my thought patterns that I carry with me into my interaction with them aren't those of me helping someone who can't help themselves. They don't look, my thought patterns aren't looking anything like that at all. That person is the universe. The universe is being everyone and everything in the field. This is me connecting with another part of me for the purpose of the energies that I get to experience through the interaction, period. Mm-hmm. You know, it feels good to help. You know,
that's not a thought.
When someone needs a little help. Yeah.
I'm coming in now. In and out of my perception, sometimes I can go right up and just look at it that way. Yeah, it's okay. Other times I'm sucked right back into the ground again. I'm like, I'm flicking up and down that understanding all the time. It's murder, so it's just trying to find a balance of how I feel about things in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy.
You just
I'm still practicing. You know, I'm still practicing. I'm still connecting up. I'm not fully connected up to myself. So I'm sure it'll come to me. I'm sure I've got all the experience. I've been doing this for many lifetimes. That's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah. It'll come back to me. It will come back to me in my true ways of doing it. Just at the moment.
Those of us who actually are having the awareness that we are, you know, that are actually intent upon this lifetime, serious about growth. You know, we have to be more, not cautious, more aware of the energies that we're creating with. If we let ourselves get pulled down into the lower spectrums, we're not doing our job. We're not fulfilling our function. We have to be able to do what we do and fulfill purpose for being without getting pulled down If you're in anger, if you're in frustration, if you're in those lower frequencies, get out. They are addictive. They will pull you further and further in. And that's a viable course. Yeah, we can do the bottom of the barrel or the top of the barrel, both get you out of the barrel. Certainly. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I did get a warning from guidance. Oh, sorry.
which way do you want to go? I remember in the ninth grade, rounding a corner. Ninth grade is right before your grades are going to go onto your record. And I was having the conscious thought of which direction I would go, the A or F route. You know, I'm rounding the corner and there's the quad, and I see all the different cliques of people, the football jocks and cheerleaders, the band geeks, the science people, you know, and all their different groups. And I was like looking around, deciding, where do I fit? And realizing I had absolutely no preference. Like just seeing the choices, you know, were all fun. I had no preference whatsoever. Top of the barrel, you know, A route, bottom of the barrel, F route, didn't even matter to me. You know, I made a choice in that moment, just as I was rounding the corner. And the choice just is what it is. It's the path I chose to go. You know? And so which path are you choosing to go? Top of the barrel, bottom of the barrel? Microphone.
Yeah. I actually got a warning just last week from guidance about not chasing demons. Came from my own connections about not to chase them, don't chase after them. Yeah, maybe going the wrong direction, I suppose.
Well, know that when you're working with the shamanic work, if you're in anger when you're doing this, anger, fear, frustration, all of those lower frequencies, they attach right to you. You're not getting rid of anything.
Yeah, but I don't mind. I'll deal with that. As long as somebody else is not getting hurt.
You just expanded their experience territory. Those are the energies they feed and fuel themselves off of. So if you emanate them, you're feeding them. And that's okay. Everyone has to eat. They're as loved by the universal structure as we are. It's the balance we're trying to keep. It's the balance we're trying to maintain. It's like the parasites within our own body. We would die without them. But if they begin to overpopulate our body systems, then it begins to bring our own body system down. So it's the balance we're trying to keep, which is how this conversation started. What is the balance you feel that is existing in the reality system itself of type 1 and type 2? I was going to further this by then asking you about your own personal biological system, because I recently experienced overgrowth and the bringing down of my own biological structure. And it was a long time before I realized that this was occurring. You know, we tend to write things off as just aging, just getting older. It's normal. This happens to everyone. Sure, if they're letting themselves be overgrown. But it doesn't have to happen. So let's dive into our own biological structures now. Being perfectly honest with ourselves. What's the ratio we feel?
I need work. I need work. I love a whole load. Yeah, I say I'm out of balance more. I need a lot of work on myself. I've got to change a lot my ways
Yeah.
on it for sure.
And this changes as we grow, by the way. This changes as our light quotient grows, as we start our graduation from 3D into 4D. Wow, right here, right now in this body. What the balance was for me when I came into this life experience was something like 85 to 15%, 85 type 1, 15 type 2. And now the where I'm at, or where the potential lies, as I'm doing these cleanses that I'm currently doing, is 93.7. That's incredible. 93 type 1, 7 type 2. 7% parasitic activity that's required for this body system to thrive. That's a fascinating subject. And out of body experiences and dream fields, do you ever go into your own biological system? Let me ask this. Are you ever aware of going into your biological system? Because I will tell you, that's all we are ever going into. Right now, we are in our own biological system. And in every visual field, in every dream field, are just deeper levels of our own biological system. I'm going to bring this up for discussion in our next OBE group. Membranes. A lot of people experience membranes, coming across a membrane in their experience. And I'm wondering how many of us actually are cognizing this membrane as our own venous system, as quote, our own blood-brain barrier. I don't experience the membranes. not as a membrane itself anyway. I definitely find myself in environments where I'm being stopped from going any further by, quote, some sort of police, or guardian system or structure that's telling me to go back. But I never experience an actual membrane. So some people are coming across this thing that looks like an actual membrane. I would love to go into what they feel that is. So what do you think of that idea? You are never in anything but your own biological system, playing out as concepts and conceptual ideas that look like specific environments all around us, but are really aspect component parts of your own being, your own personal being. What are the structures that build? What are the symbols that build your own being, your own personal being and biological structure?
No, I stopped looking at biological structures as biological. I just learned it's information, just a construct. Biological became almost meaningless to me. It's almost meaningless to me. So I never really thought about going into that kind of way.
Your own biological system is composed of consciousness cells. As you are a consciousness cell in the body of the creator of the universe, there's consciousness cells that create your own personal version of this, and they are alive. You have brought them in. They've brought themselves together to form your life experience, my life experience, your life experience.
But we can dematerialize this at any point. Well, obviously, you get to that stage. This can just you don't have a body. You're no longer contained in that body. That's what got me in mostly. It's just you can dematerialize and materialize it. What power should that have
Let
over
this
me?
blow your mind. This took me a long time to get to. Let this blow your mind. What we visually see, what we physically experience, isn't even there. Now, let this blow your mind. How can something that isn't even there be so there? I mean, that's magic. That's magical.
I spent months like this. Honestly, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what? You see, talk about taking the red pill. You're like, what? It's just, it does blow your mind.
It's not just, it's magic. It's magical. It's like, who's that powerful? How do you create something from nothing? There is nothing more powerful. There's nothing more potent. There's nothing more pure than that. This is amazing. The fact that we're seeing it, the fact that it's even there. Everything is consciousness. Everything. Your body, your biological structure, every system in your biological structure is composed of consciousness. And when that really begins to permeate your awareness more, you will feel it. Right now I'm vibrating from head to toe as I'm bringing it very clearly into the front of my awareness. And I'm humming, and there's all this amazing energy in my hands and in the back of my head and in the soles of my feet that I can do things with. What can I do with this energy? I can create. I can build. I can heal. I can help. What else is there? That's what we do in the vision fields. I'm a creator now. Now I'm a creator. Can I create beyond what the current paradigm says is possible? I can now. I'm entering a new spectrum of reality and leaving the old one behind with this awareness. You know, I'm going into a field where the rule set says I can, you know, where consensus says this is okay, this is normal, this is natural, this is the way things are. Somebody dive in. Ra, we haven't heard from you.
For myself, it's I view I feel like I view myself as a not really in the body experience much of the time, and from the far this back that I remember was this feeling of where it should have been, what is this? What is this? Why am I here? What is this? This body should have been this wonderful experience, but it was it was the opposite for some reason, and I had to go through a tremendous amount of different things to bring myself to a point where I could make a decision to choose to see otherwise. One of the things that became very, very clear to me And it was something that was within me, and I always knew this, and I think that's why I lived through a lot of the things that I did, was that there's no such thing as someone who's better or lesser or anything. Everyone is and has the same animating life in them, and what people present or with is oftentimes their lack of knowledge. And I do also operate in a as a bouncing ball going back and forth, but
And how can we have negative judgment against someone who is simply not aware?
there's no way to.
There's no way to. Once you're realizing what you are, there's no way to.
They have every right to be there where they are in their own understanding, just as we
Yes.
have every right to be where we are within our own understanding.
And to work their own way through that portion of the process, yes?
I think this is how things are going to change eventually for the better, is people coming into this greater awareness one by one by one, as many as can who's choose. There will be people that don't choose this for whatever reason in this lifetime, which is also absolutely their right to choose how they choose.
Put something forward. Put something forward to dive into. Something that you want to see more into. Something you'd like the world to see more into.
Less fear. I realize that I've been fighting with the entity of fear, which I think is it's something that's inhibiting the human race as a whole, like a cloud, an energy cloud that hangs over us. And so much of this is operating, and it's not even necessarily fear of losing one's life. It's a fear of not having control and the ability to survive in this highly unnatural situation that are, depending on where people live, they find themselves in. How do you can't fight fear with anything other than what you described perfectly, which is the understanding and the awareness of that we are all
One.
safe, all connected, yeah, and there's nothing to fear.
So this idea in relation to the question I asked about awareness of in our experiences being in our own biological system, let's look at this. So think of this in terms of, think of the reality system, the visual field all around us, as being a movie projection. Okay, when you go to the movies, remember the old movies that were actually on a film strip? Okay, and you shine a light through those little pictures on the film strip, and is anything showing out there on the screen other than what's on the film strip? No, only what's on the film strip is showing up on the screen. Yes? The light shines through the film strip has the pictures, and the light projects the pictures out there onto the screen. James, that's how old-fashioned movies used to work. He's a little young. I don't know if he remembers.
No, I'm not that young. No, I remember.
Okay, so with that in mind, what is it that's appearing all around us? This is the film strip. This is the film strip. The light is shining through the film strip that we are and is projecting all around us. You are always in your own biological system, your own mind, energy, body system. Always, right here in this reality right here in this vision field and all other vision fields. Remember when I had the experience with the magical being in the ocean called a hippocampus? And the hippocampus being so named after its shape, being similar to a portion of our brain called the hippocampus. This is how we come to meet the entities, the consciousnesses and collective consciousness, because the hippocampus is composed of a collection of little consciousness cells that make just it. So the hippocampus is the hippocampus, and it's also a collective consciousness composed of consciousness cells that create that structure. And we meet our own biological structure in our experiences. And not just the physical components of the biological structure, but of the consciousness cells and energy systems that compose them. The earth life is no more than our own earth life biological structure, our own earth life biological structure. We are all in our own personal reality systems, reality structures. There is no such thing as the earth. There's your earth and my earth. And is there commonality? Is there overlap in conceptual ideas? Sure. You have a brain, I have a brain, you have a brain. We each have 5 fingers, 5 toes. So there's overlap. There's all this overlap. But there is also what doesn't overlap, which makes your world unique from mine, your earth unique from mine, my earth unique from yours. And why is this important?
When we understand that, we can change our experience within our own reality
And
not necessarily be subject to whatever is happening around and the realities of other people,
or impose ourselves onto other people's worlds. Yes. No longer important for me to get my idea of a beautiful world on you. Because
But we are subject to other people's free wills. We're still subject to other free will coming in. We still have to deal with, even though it's their own reality, its own reality stream. It's interactive with everybody else's free will, so mixed in. That's something I struggle with myself, because I was going to try and push in manifestation, just push my reality forward, but then I was like, I've got so many different people in my life. I don't know how I could do it.
Free will is another way of saying you are your own reality. It is my recognition of the fact that you are your own reality.
I mean, I don't dispute it, I understand it, but I've got to deal with I was just saying my kids, for example, I've got to deal with them. I can't just go and do my thing. I can't do that. I've got to, and their free will and their projection, the real reality will impact on mine. So I'm not entirely free to just, I can't. You see, I'm kind of stuck there. My reality, yes, but I'm still interactive with those in my life.
Let go of the idea, the words free will.
Was that, sorry?
Let go of the words free will.
Mm-hmm.
You are your own reality. You are the creator of your own reality. Your reality is yours and yours alone. You are sovereign. You are all. You are all that is in the spectrum of what you call reality. And when you take this idea and you give it to everyone, no matter who they are, no matter what they're doing, that's free will. You're not so much free as freedom, because you are the all that is. What else is there? You are your own reality. You are the creator of your own reality. I am not the creator of your reality. I am not imposing myself upon your reality. You are the creator of your reality. I cannot change you. Why would I even try? What's the fundamental basis of everyone's reality?
Yeah, I haven't forgotten sovereignty. I still put that in my mind, that mantra.
What's another word for sovereignty? Love. So how do I get into your reality? Sovereignty. You felt me touch you when I was saying what I was saying, did you not?
No.
That's the only way I can get into your reality, with the fundamental basis that underlies all our realities: sovereignty, love, joy, peace. These are the creative energies that create us all. That's how we connect. That's how you can feel me and I can feel you. It's tangible through the biological system. It's visible in the visual field. The experience of that is joy. And now you know what sex, physical sex, is created from. It's created from that basic template. And you can see what other things are created from that we like to do here in this reality. You can see the basic template, the fundamental basis, that we've sort of actualized or physicalized in a particular way in our own reality. What's another thing that underlies all our reality? Because we all are experiencing biological structures, nature is another component part of all our realities. And so if I dive into nature, the elements, can I make my way into your space? Can I make my way into your space if you say no? But you'll hear me knocking at the door. You'll feel something, and you'll either open to it or not. If you don't open to it, I don't come in, but you may still feel me knocking right there at the door. One day you might let me in. And vice versa. There's no other way to touch another being. At their basis.
See what I had to do. I had to hold myself back because I got to that stage where I opened right up, and I discovered that I stopped caring about anything. I had to come back down because I haven't lost any seriousness with me. And I was thinking, man, that's not a good way, because things just became almost meaningless. I didn't take it seriously whatsoever. I was laughing. My brother even commented on it. What are you always laughing at? Things is serious. I'm laughing, man. But I had to pull myself back out of that kind of awareness because I was off.
You almost got there. You almost got there. When you're shifting between here and how it was previously and the previous thought concepts, and you're shifting in toward how it really is, you'll come across the differential. You'll have to make your way through the differential. And in the differential, you may have thoughts and feelings such as what you were having, that you weren't there yet. You didn't make your way into there being no differential between the larger consciousness and the ground level consciousness. Because once you get there, everything is pure meaning. Everything is super important. You see how every thought and feeling you have affects the others in the field. So you take greater care, more love.
So I made a mistake by pulling back then.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a mistake because I thought, well, I'm stopped. Well, okay.
Well, not a mistake, but you reached your own boundary. Yeah. And yeah, without having fully gotten there yet. You have to make your way through the differential field. And when we're going out of body, how do we experience that field of differential? We experience it as vibration. Ooh. Because it's that physical, right?
Mm.
And so bringing things back into the way we perceive it through our own body is maybe the better way to go. Because through the mind field, yes, you'll come across your thoughts. But in the physicality, you come across your feeling, the pure sensation, and it's more apt to just simply blow your mind. Well, it scares some people, and it reached a point where it was scaring me at a certain point too. I mean, you can only experience it for so long before you're like, how long is this going to last, man? I can't live my life like this. So yeah, we step out of it and come back. Yeah, but see the thoughts. Notice the thoughts that brought you back. Notice the energies, the fear, the question, how am I going to live a physical life in this way? Yeah, and so we get brought back. But we weren't there. We didn't go as far out into the experience as is possible. We didn't get all the way there yet. Because again, when you do, there is no differential. The all is the one is the all. And it's a phenomenal experience. It's a phenomenal way to live. I think it's the point of my current life experience to bring the soul all the way into the body. And yeah, that's the kind of experience that happens. And that's pure love, pure care, pure peace, pure joy. Someone? What does this have to do with contact? What are we contacting now? Did we go out beyond the galactic field? We're going well out beyond the galactic field, aren't we? So contact goes deeper. than ET contact.
So
Yeah.
that's where my experiences are. I've had to come back down for the ET contact because I was going to other places. I was just looking at these big massive beings creating realities and all sorts of stuff. I went straight past the ET part. I'm having to come back down, up into that.
I will let you know that it's not possible to get from New York City, for example, out to California without having passed through all the states in between. You may focus purely on New York, where you began, and California, where you got to, but you still passed through all those other states. When you go out, you can't bypass galactic space. You have to go through it. What you didn't do was cognize the experience you had there. Cognize the experience you are having there, that you are and are having there. Yeah. But it's certainly fun because it's the closest space to you, because those beings are the closest being to your earth human being. It's very highly tangible. It's very highly personal to you, very highly experienceable. Yeah. You can't go from the 3rd grade to the 8th grade. You got to go through 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th to get there. And how much of that you cognize, how much of that you let yourself recognize is up to you.
I'm greedy. I want all of it. I want all of it.
Yeah, this is why we're doing the mirror gazing, right? We're trying to bring more awareness into that level of our being, that level of our existence and experiencing, that level of our energy.
How surprising how fast that was. I wasn't expecting anything. I thought we'd do it for a whole week before we get anything, but I didn't. That's just the first attempt, second attempt, got to be in on the second attempt. I thought, that's amazing. Well, that's a brilliant thing to teach people to do, just sit and do that. Just for a very quick taste. Yeah, I was impressed how fast that worked.
So let's talk a little bit about that some more before we conclude for today, because we are approaching our time. Ra had mentioned she experimented with how far from the mirror she sat. Okay. For me, arm's length away is ideal. And I have closet doors that are mirrored. That also is an ideal for me. So not a small mirror, although I can do that, although anyone can do that. It's more ideal for me to have a mirror that shows the whole environment and me in that whole environment. So I can actually see my whole body and I can see my whole space here. What else have we discovered works best for us? What's the difference, Ra, in your sits, sitting right up close to the mirror and it being more like arm's length? What differences?
When the time when I was holding the hand mirror, maybe it was further, about an arm length, a little bit less, but I saw more detail. I didn't mention that time. There was very, very great detail around the eyes. These eyes looked very old and wrinkly. The skin looked like a very grayish color. I couldn't really see much beyond that. That's why I kind of preferred the larger mirror, because I could see like someone on the side of me and different things, and it just seemed easier to work with and a bigger field to observe. So the lighting is it seems it's kind of like I turn the lighting off and the room has to be just right, and it's easier to do as well. I didn't use a candle, though. I didn't try that.
The candle will only work in a certain type of room, where the glow is actually emanating to the right degree. The reason I suggested, you can do sunrise and or sunset, and the reason I suggested these two times to begin with is these are natural portals. So it's much easier for the layers to come through at these times of day, the hour into sunrise and or the hour into sunset. I prefer practicing at or after sunset when I'm working with the mind. So that just works better for me. But I can practice at any time of day and have experience. Anybody can. But what you'll experience will tend to be somewhat different. Yes. Again, I like the full length mirror, about arm's length away, and dim lighting. Yeah, seems to work best. And that way I can go into two fields simultaneously. I can go into the etheric version of my space and, like Ra says, see the beings in my room. And I can go into my own biological structure, into what we might call astral environments. Yeah, where I'm on other worlds and doing things like that. At the same time that I'm sitting in my room and just watching the other faces come through my face, the other bodies appear through my body. The fellow I saw yesterday was really interesting. I'll mention this as having happened because it hasn't happened for so long. I've practiced to talk most of my adult life, so more than 30 years. And so I generally move into a state of concentration very easily, and I'm not practicing Tritak so much in its formal sense as having to hold the eyes open. Just the mind moves into a natural state of concentration and the eyes naturally don't blink. But this being that was coming through, and therefore don't tear, they don't tire. This being was coming through, primeval being, very, very old, very ancient being. Wasn't really getting information on where he's from or what the connection is with me. I was getting a very large symbol, however. So he had been attacked at some point in his life, clawed or scratched or cut over his left eye. And so he had no left eye, and it was, just overhanging and scarred over. And this was causing the mirror of his left eye, my right eye, to tear, and a lot. It was just tearing nonstop. Yeah, so I experienced some kind of something there, a completion with something. Yeah, very definite release. Felt really good. So tonight I'll be trying to, or I won't try, I'll just, be curious. I usually am just curious, as to who that is and want to continue the exchange of information. And so, yeah, I'm hoping that happens again with him tonight, but also very curious about the red Martian guy. And those who will be, doing the channeling with me. So.
Well, good to see how much, if we can deepen the channeling using these instruments, especially the red Martian one, with the rattles. I've got the rattle as well, authentic one. Whether that makes that much more stronger. Just do a lot of experiments to do that. I'm interested in that because you've got that symbol and because of what that is, and I've got these tools sitting there thinking, man, that could really go down if you're going to channel that through, because it's done there in that book as well, about the posture about divining and channeling in the energies. It's already sitting there with the rattle.
Yeah.
It's something to experiment with, see if that deepened that, see if it's opened it up quite big. So yeah, it's good things to do, I think.
I really want to meet who I'm going to be beginning with. Yeah. I would love a conceptual name, for me to call the being by or with, and, just sort of get more of an integration going so that the words can start coming through. Yeah. I really feel like I'm actually taking a step toward this, whereas before I just felt stuck. Like I don't know how to step. I don't know what to do to get this going. And I couldn't quite get the impetus to start doing anything in my own thought construct of, I don't know how to begin. You know, I just kept experiencing that thought construct. I don't know how to begin. And so I wasn't doing anything to begin. No step was coming to me. It was the most frustrating thing. Um, Yeah, that's the one thing that doesn't change throughout any of this is that we're always experiencing our own self, our own thoughts, our own energies, our own biological structures. Just fascinating. We'll have to go into that more as more comes to me on it. You know, as more discrete, you know, experiences come to me that I can relay as specific examples. It's hard to grasp otherwise. I had never really thought about it in this way before, kind of sort of like I knew that I was going into my own biological structure. I'm aware of when I'm meeting certain parts of my body, such as the hippocampus that I did a few weeks back and, you know, things like that. But I wasn't thinking of the whole thing as simply being, you know, my own biological structure, you know, and coming across membranes and those membranes being literally our own DNA, our own blood-brain barriers, you know, and you know what more, you know, they could be. But yeah, fascinating idea. I'd like to dive into that more with more of us. So, is there anything more on contact, or shall we go ahead and complete here for today?
I don't really have anything else. I'm just a little bit curious about the mirror gazing as opposed to what they call scrying, which I've done before in the past, but I find the mirror gazing with, you know, looking in the eyes is actually much, much more effective than simply looking at a blank. Um, I'm just curious, is it similar to the process when you work with crystals and you see the faces coming forward? Um, it's the same.
Yes. My consciousness connecting from the withinness of myself with other component parts of my consciousness through the different dimensions. Yes, that's appearing in the crystal. So it's contact with my own self from the withinness of myself being projected back out to me through my own visual field, specifically through the crystal. Yes. So is that the same thing that's happening in the mirror? Yes. Always. The crystals in the mirror, right? The visual field all around us is the mirror. A literal mirror, what we call a mirror, is just what is the word I'm trying to think of? A metaphor for that. But the world is the mirror. The environment all around us is the mirror. And what we call a mirror being in that mirror is sort of funny, right? It takes you into the dream within a dream within a dream within a dream. Yeah? Or
Yeah,
within a dimension, within a dimension, within a dimension. Just other words for the same thing. And on that note, we are contacting so much more than the ET dimensions. But focusing on the ET dimensions is our graduation, because that's where we're going. From being a 3D Earth human personality, the graduation out is into the galactic sphere and into our galactic counterparts, into who our soul is being in the galaxy, not just here locally on Earth, but in the whole of the galaxy. I'll see you all later. Kid,